It came down to the final hour of negotiations, but a Chicago teachers' strike has been narrowly averted for now. The Chicago Teachers Union had set Tuesday 11th as the strike deadline, but a tentative contract was reached around midnight Monday. The full details of the agreement have not been yet made public, and to be finalized, it still needs approval of the Chicago Teachers Union House of Delegates and full membership. It appears both sides have made significant concessions, and we'll get into those in a moment. But author and journalist Micah Uetricht argues the union's militant leadership by President Karen Lewis and CORE, the Caucus of Rank-and-File Educators, deserves credit for the concessions made by Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
The reason that the union is talking about things today, like big picture ideas like reversing austerity, is because this caucus took over in 2010. So the union was able to win what it was able to win at the bargaining table because of the credible threat of a strike. Everyone realized that the union was willing to walk off the job this morning if they didn't get what they wanted, and that really lit a fire under Chicago Public Schools to cough up things like a huge chunk of TIF money to go to the schools.
A key demand in the negotiations was an increase in school funding, which would seem like a challenge in cash-strapped Chicago. The union demanded this be done through surplus tax increment finance or TIF funds, which are traditionally reserved for corporations and developers. We recently talked to Chicago teacher and CORE member Sarah Chambers about the impact of the lack of funding.
And in the schools, we're bare bones. We can't take any more cuts. At my school, with 1,200 students, we only have a nurse about 2 days a week. And many schools only have one counselor. We're 600 schools now, and we only have librarians in 1/4 of the schools. Majority of our schools don't even have librarians, and our class sizes are skyrocketing.
News outlets have reported the contract awards around $75 million in TIF funds to city schools. The union had been demanding $200 million.
What was being debated over here was the roughly $200 million that was in the TIF surplus. And rather than the city being able to hold on to that money, keep it in the bank for a rainy day, the CTU forced Rahm Emanuel to give up some of that money and give it back to the schools.
A major concession for the union is that the city will no longer contribute to the pensions of new hires, but they will be giving new hires additional compensation to make up for it. This had been a key sticking point for the union.
I spoke to a teacher today about this, a young teacher, about whether or not this was a significant issue, because in other unions, when you introduce two-tier pension systems, it can reduce the solidarity in the workforce. It can make the young workers resentful of the older workers. She didn't seem to think that it was a big problem, mostly because there is this added compensation that will come for younger teachers. But it is something that should definitely be kept an eye on, because the union had said, this was one of the major sticking points of the contract negotiations.
Some are also concerned if the contract does enough to fight austerity.
Teacher I spoke with earlier today was concerned that they had not won as much as they could have on some of the big picture issues about reversing austerity, wanting to end some of the disparities in special education funding, things like that. The contract is hot off the press, so it's hard to issue a final judgment of it now. Everyone acknowledges that it's not a perfect document.
It remains to be seen if the contract is approved by Chicago teachers or they reject it and launch a strike in hopes of winning more concessions.
It's also worth repeating that this contract, they have a tentative agreement that has been put, they've come to this agreement between the board and the union's bargaining team. But the contract still has to be voted on by the union's membership. And this is a highly democratic, independent thinking union membership that has voted down contracts in the past that it has not liked. So it is entirely possible that teachers could vote down this proposed contract, and we could be back to where we were yesterday, seeing if we're going to be experiencing a teacher strike soon.
Uetricht says it's possible for more teachers' unions, traditionally not known for threatening strikes to win concessions and demanding an end to austerity, to adopt a more militant stance like that of the Chicago teachers.
if other teachers unions around the country want to be more like the CTU in that they are a major political juggernaut in the city that is fighting for this broad set of issues, they should take the lessons from the Chicago Teachers Union of taking over their union and making it more democratic and more militant and really working alongside parents. And that's not easy work by any means, but it's the only way to transform teachers unions into this kind of broad social justice vehicle that the CTU is.
This is Jess Lenore.